Je suis accompagné de Christian, votre matelot à bord. Nous partons ensemble une croisière guidée d'une heure. Et notre guide aujourd'hui sera Sophie. Si vous avez envie d'une boisson, plus encore, notre bar à bord est ouvert tout au long de la croisière. Merci de votre attention et très belle croisière avec Vedettes de Paris. Dear visitors, welcome to Vedettes de Paris. My name is Khalid and I'm a captain for the cruise. My colleague Christian is our sailor on board. We navigate for 1 hour guided cruise. Our guide today is Sophie. For drink or more, our bar on board is open during the whole cruise. Thank you for your attention and have a lovely cruise with Vedettes de Paris.
1 hour. On board this boat, in the interior spaces, there's a bar which is open for the whole duration of the cruise. Should you need it, there is also a restroom located on the main deck at the back under the red staircase. If some of you are not comfortable with French or English, there are more languages on the application Vedettes de París. The application offers Spanish, Italian, German, and Dutch. If you're interested in Spanish, Italian, German, or Dutch, the name of the application is Vedettes de París. In the whole of Paris, and really the whole of France, to the right, the Eiffel Tower. La Tour Eiffel a été construite pour l'exposition universelle de 1889. Les expositions universelles étaient de grands événements festifs, organisés tous les 3-4 ans environ, principalement en Europe et aux États-Unis au début, à partir de 1851. Pendant ces grands événements, des millions de visiteurs venaient découvrir et célébrer les dernières innovations technologiques, créations artistiques et découvertes scientifiques. En 1889, mètres de hauteur. L'idée de la tour de 300 mètres était tellement folle qu'on n'était pas certain de savoir comment la construire. Un concours d'idées a dû être organisé. C'est l'ingénieur Gustave Eiffel qui a eu les meilleures idées. C'est lui qui a été. The BE bridge that we're approaching was also made for the World Fair of 1889 at the same time as the Eiffel Tower. To the left, after the bridge, the building with a colonnade was made for another World Fair a little later, the World Fair of 1937. Inside, there are two interesting museums, the Palais de Tokyo, dedicated to contemporary art, and the Museum of Modern Art of the City of Paris. À gauche, le bâtiment avec une colonnade derrière les arbres a aussi été créé pour une exposition. It's a copy of the flame that the Statue of Liberty in New York holds in her hand. La Statue de la Liberté de New York avait été offerte par la France aux États-Unis en gage d'amitié. Les États-Unis, appréciant l'amitié de la France, ils ont aussi offert des cadeaux. La flamme dorée sous les arbres à gauche et une copie de la Statue de la Liberté plus petite que l'original. To show their friendship, the U.S. appreciated France's friendship, so they gave gifts too. They gave the golden flame to the left under the trees, and also a copy of the Statue of Liberty. The copy is a bit smaller than the original though. The original in New York is 46 meters high. The copy the Americans gifted is 12 meters high. The copy can be found on the Île aux Cygnes, the island of swans in Paris. Artificial islands that were created in 2013 in order to create new green spaces. These floating gardens to the right are called Niki de Saint-Phal, after a Franco-American artist mostly known for colorful artworks. À gauche, les bateaux-mouches, c'est la compagnie de croisière la plus ancienne de Paris. Il y a des bateaux-mouches à Paris depuis l'exposition universelle de 1867. There has been bateaux-mouches in Paris since the World Fair of 1867. Au-delà des bateaux-mouches, au-dessus des arbres à gauche, on aperçoit le bleu-blanc-rouge d'un drapeau français. Metal and glass on a French flag on top is the Grand Palais, the Great Palace. It was made for the World Fair of 1900 for the turn of a century. It was created to host events of exceptional dimensions. The Grand Palais is so large you can organize horse races inside the building. In the early 1900s, when planes were smaller, plane shows were organized at the Grand Palais. For some fun fairs in 2014 and 2015, A Ferris wheel was set up in the main nave of the Grand Palais. Devant nous, le pont Alexandre III est surnommé le plus beau pont de Paris. Il est en effet richement décoré avec beaucoup de sculptures, beaucoup de dorures. On voulait vraiment, quand on l'a créé pour l'exposition de 1900, que ce soit le pont le plus beau et le plus luxueux qu'on ait jamais vu. Largest square in Paris, Concorde Square. In the center, playing hide and seek with the trees, there is the oldest monument in the whole of Paris. The obelisk on Concorde Square with a golden top was made during Egyptian antiquity under the rule of powerful pharaoh Ramses II. The golden top might peek here and there above the trees. We will see the obelisk bust right before and right after crossing the bridge. L'obélisque de la place de la Concorde, c'est un cadeau magnifique que l'Égypte a offert à la France en 1830. Un cadeau exceptionnel mais aussi très encombrant. Il est en granit et pèse 230 tonnes. As we exit the bridge, the obelisk and its golden top in the middle of Concorde Square was a beautiful gift that Egypt gave to France in 1830. It's an exceptional gift. It's also a heavy, cumbersome one. It's made in granite and weighs 230 tons. It was extremely difficult for France to ship the gift all the way from Luxor, Egypt to Paris, France, and then to get it standing up in the center of the square. It took 6 whole years of efforts for France to set up the gift here. After 6 years of efforts, France was so tired, they decided to give up on the second gift. Egypt had gifted 2 obelisks. This was supposed to be a pair, but France never had the courage to go get the second one. The other obelisk is still to this day in front of the Luxor Temple in Egypt. L'inspiration soit prise de ce bâtiment à la coupole verte pour ces maisons américaines comme la Maison Blanche de Washington. To the right, at the end of the bridge, there is a statue of Thomas Jefferson. When Jefferson was staying in Paris in the second half of the 1700s, he absolutely loved the elegant building with a green cupola to the right, the Hôtel de Salm. He would come to admire it every day. That's why a statue of Jefferson was put at the end of the bridge to the right, turned towards the Hôtel de Salm. He loved this building with the green cupola so much. He also wanted inspiration to be taken from this place for his American homes, Monticello in Virginia and the White House in Washington, D.C. À droite, de Vincent Van Gogh. Mais avant d'être un musée, quand le bâtiment a ouvert en 1900, c'était une gare. C'est pour ça qu'il y a ces 2 grandes horloges sur la façade. Elles étaient pratiques pour les voyageurs, ils pouvaient facilement surveiller l'heure et être sûrs de ne pas manquer leur train. To the right, the large, beautiful building with 2 gigantic clocks on the facade is the Orsay Museum, where you can find the largest collection in the world of Impressionist artworks. All of the Impressionist painters are well represented inside, with works by Monet, Renoir, and Degas, for instance. And there are also post-Impressionists like Vincent van Gogh. But before being a museum, when the building first opened in 1900, it was a train station. That's why there are 2 gigantic clocks on the facade. The clocks were handy for travelers to keep track of time and make sure they didn't miss their train. Louvre Museum. À gauche, un autre musée célèbre de Paris, le Louvre. Le Louvre, à gauche, c'est un musée exceptionnel à plus d'un titre. Le bâtiment lui-même est intéressant, il a une histoire longue de 8 siècles. C'est aussi un bâtiment très vaste, c'est un des plus grands musées du monde. Ses collections sont impressionnantes, plus de 620 000 œuvres d'art appartiennent au musée. 35 000 d'entre elles environ sont présentées au public à l'intérieur. Le public aussi est impressionnant, 10 millions de visiteurs environ viennent au Louvre chaque année. C'est le musée le plus visité au monde. The Louvre to the left is an exceptional museum in many ways. The building itself is interesting with a history 8 centuries long. It's also very large. It's one of the largest museums in the world. The collections are impressive. Over 620,000 artworks belong to the museum. About 35,000 of them are shown inside. The public is also impressive. There are about 10 million visitors coming to the Louvre every year. It's the most visited museum in the world. artwork in the whole Louvre is the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa is incredibly famous, partly because of its artistic quality. It was made by a great painter of Renaissance, Leonardo da Vinci, partly because of its mystery too, which is very appealing. The uncertain identity, the enigmatic smile, the eyes following the viewers in the room. But if it is so famous, more so than all the other artworks of the museum, it's also because it was stolen in 1911. In 1911, a former worker from the Louvre came in one morning, took the painting off the wall, put it under his coat, and walked out of the museum. And he successfully stole the Mona Lisa. Everybody was in shock that the Louvre had been robbed, so newspapers wrote articles for months and months about the theft and the painting. The newspapers made such a fuss over it. When the Mona Lisa was found again 2 years later and returned to the museum, it was no longer a painting famous only in the art world among specialists. It had become a global superstar, and it has been that ever since. 400 ans. Quand il a ouvert, il a fait sensation. C'était la première fois à Paris qu'on construisait un pont en pierre plutôt qu'en bois. Tout le monde était impressionné de sa solidité. C'était aussi la première fois qu'on construisait un pont sans mettre des maisons par-dessus. À l'époque gallo-romaine, la ville ne s'appelait pas encore Paris. Son premier nom était Lutèce. Le nom de la ville a été changé quelques siècles après sa création pour faire référence au peuple parisien, un peuple qui avait déjà habité la région avant l'époque gallo-romaine. To the left, we're sailing along a natural island called Île de la Cité, which is the birthplace of Paris. When the city started developing, starting in the 1st century AD, for a great part, it was on the island to the left that it happened. At its beginnings, the city was under Roman control, and its first name was Lutèce. The name of the city was changed to Paris a few centuries after its creation, as a reference to the Parisi people, a people who had lived in this region before the Romans came. Côté gauche, on reconnaît un joyau de l'architecture gothique, la magnifique cathédrale Notre-Dame de Paris. On the island ahead, on the left side, you can recognize a jewel of Gothic architecture, the beautiful cathedral Notre-Dame de Paris. La cathédrale a beaucoup souffert de l'incendie de 2019. L'incendie a complètement détruit les toitures. Le toit de Notre-Dame, on l'appelait la forêt. On avait utilisé tant de poutres de 1831. The story of Quasimodo and Esmeralda was a bestseller. It rekindled French people's interest for the monument. That's why the French had Notre-Dame entirely renovated between 1844 and 1864. Il y a actuellement de très nombreux travaux tout autour de Notre-Dame parce qu'elle va être sauvée une nouvelle fois. Dès 2024, il devrait être possible d'entrer à nouveau à l'intérieur. There are many scaffoldings and works currently all around Notre-Dame because it's going to be saved again. As soon as 2024, next year, it should be possible to enter inside the building again. Geneviève. Geneviève sur le pont à droite, c'est la sainte patronne de Paris parce qu'elle a défendu la ville face à un grave danger en 451. En 451, le redoutable général Attila s'approchait de Paris à la tête de l'armée des Huns. Attila venait pour piller Paris. Tout le monde avait terriblement peur de lui. Attila était surnommé le fléau de Dieu. Les Parisiens commençaient à s'enfuir, laissant la ville sans défense. Mais Geneviève a décidé de rester, de protéger Paris et ses habitants. Elle a sauvé la ville et a été nommée protectrice officielle de Paris. Geneviève on the bridge back there to the right was named the official protector of Paris after she saved the city in 451. In 451, General Attila was nearing Paris with the army of the Huns. Attila and the Huns were coming to loot and pillage. Everybody was terribly scared. They started fleeing, leaving the city without defenses. But Geneviève decided to stay, to defend Paris and its inhabitants. She essentially saved the city. She was named the official protector of Paris. Ici, je vais marquer une courte pause. On s'est dit que c'était peut-être de l'espace perdu. On a commencé à construire. Les personnes qui se sont installées là étaient très riches et ont pu se construire de très beaux hôtels particuliers. Comme l'hôtel de Lausanne, avec son balcon doré à côté de nous, L'hôtel de Lausanne est connu pour sa magnifique architecture, son très beau décor intérieur préservé du XVIIe siècle, ce qui est très rare, et aussi parce que l'hôtel de Lausanne a été au XIXe le lieu de rencontre d'écrivains français, comme les célèbres poètes Théophile. We're sailing along the second natural island in the historical heart of Paris, St. Louis Island. It's a lovely neighborhood because it's very quiet, which is unexpected and enjoyable in such a central part of the city. It was even quieter in the past. It wasn't constructed until the 1600s. Until then, in the heart of Paris, what you could find there was fields, cows grazing, and that's it. It was really, really peaceful. But then people thought maybe it was wasted space. They could afford to create beautiful homes for themselves. The architecture is really gorgeous on the island. It adds a lot of charm and a lot of value to the whole neighborhood. À droite, tout le long des quais, il y a un grand nombre de boîtes vertes. Ces boîtes vertes le long des green boxes along the river are meant for the sale of bouquins, second-hand books. The people using them are called the bouquinistes. When the bouquinistes first appeared in the 1700s, the booksellers of Paris complained a lot. Booksellers who were paying rent for their bookshops felt that the bouquinistes selling outdoors, not paying rent, were unfair competition. The booksellers tried to shut down the bouquinistes to have them forbidden. Looking to the right, you can see they completely failed. The tradition is well implanted along 3 kilometers of the Seine River in the city center, and it's a very well appreciated tradition today. À droite, derrière les arbres, the large building in Renaissance style, decorated with many statues, is the Hôtel de Ville, the city hall where the mayor of Paris works. There are many mayors in Paris. There is one mayor per district. Per arrondissement, there are 20 arrondissements in total. The mayor for the whole of the city has the largest, nicest city hall, the Hôtel de Ville, back there to the right. It's in Renaissance style, but it's not from the Renaissance time. The original building burnt entirely in a huge riot in 1871. L'Hôtel de Ville de Paris est de style, mais pas d'époque Renaissance. Le bâtiment d'origine a entièrement brûlé pendant la Commune de Paris en 1871. Il a fallu reconstruire après cette grande révolte. Villages with its 4 towers is the Conciergerie, an interesting place that had several roles through its history. La Conciergerie a d'abord été le palais des rois de France. Au Moyen-Âge, quand les rois de France séjournaient à Paris, c'est dans ce palais qu'ils résidaient. Les rois ont déménagé au XIVe siècle de palais. La Conciergerie est devenue une prison. Cette prison s'en est beaucoup servi à la Révolution. C'est ici que, entre autres, la reine Marie-Antoinette a été retenue prisonnière à la fin de sa vie. Aujourd'hui, la Conciergerie, c'est simplement un monument qui se visite. The Conciergerie and its 4 towers to the left was first the palace of the kings of France in the Middle Ages. When the kings moved away, it was turned into a prison. The prison was extensively used during the French Revolution. This is where Queen Marie-Antoinette was held prisoner at the end of her life. Now, La Conciergerie is simply a monument that can be visited, where you can learn a lot about the French Revolution. In a funny way, there are 381 faces sculpted all along on both sides, all different from one another, all making faces. They're trying to scare off evil in order to protect the bridge and the people going by. On this side, the loop to the right is linked through the Pont des Arts, the Bridge of the Arts, to the Institute of France on the other side. Is the building with a gorgeous cupola with touches of gold behind the trees for now, is the place where the French Academy works. The French are protective of their language. They have an official institution, the French Academy, to the left, entirely dedicated to protecting the French language. Reputation. This is the bridge where people in Paris used to meet to hang love locks. But there were so many people in love in Paris that the weight of the love locks became too much for the structural integrity of the bridge. Everything had to be removed to make sure it didn't collapse, and now it's been made impossible to hang love locks on the Bridge of Paris. Les artistes de Paris ont profité du départ du Roi Soleil pour s'installer dans le Louvre déserté, sans y avoir été tout à fait autorisés. Les artistes de Paris ont squatté le palais du Louvre pendant tout le XVIIIe siècle, jusqu'à ce que la Révolution française transforme à nouveau le lieu. C'est la Révolution qui a fait du Louvre un musée public le 10 août 1793. To the right, the Louvre is an exceptional museum today, but when it was first constructed in 1200, it was something completely different. In 1200, 8 centuries ago, museums did not exist, and we were here at the edge, at the limit of the city. Paris was much smaller, it did not extend beyond this point. The Louvre was first created as a military fortress, standing at the edge of the city to defend it in case of enemy attacks. However, the city soon grew beyond this early limit, so the fortress ended up inside the city. It couldn't defend much anymore. It was transformed into a residential palace for the kings of France. It's not appropriate for orange trees. To make sure they did not die from the cold in the winter, buildings were created specifically for them called orangeries. This one to the right is now a museum. There are no orange trees inside today, but there are water lilies painted by Impressionist Claude Monet. Is one of the major artworks inside. Flags is the National Assembly, one of 2 chambers of the French Parliament. Devant nous, on retrouve une dorée des Invalides, juste avant et juste après la traversée du pont. To the left in the distance, we can briefly spot the golden dome of the Invalides right before and right after crossing the bridge. Les Invalides avec leur dôme doré à gauche, c'est un bâtiment qui a été créé pour les invalides de guerre, les soldats blessés du roi Soleil Louis XIV. C'est pour ça qu'il porte ce nom curieux, Invalides. Et puis c'est aussi aux Invalides que se trouve la tombe de Napoléon. The Invalides and their golden dome to the left in the distance were created for the Invalids of War, the wounded soldiers of his son King Louis XIV. That's why the building has this weird name, Invalids. The Invalids is also the place where you can find Napoleon's tomb. Napoleon died in exile in 1821, but in 1840, France organized a national funeral for him, and that's when he was buried under the golden dome of the Invalids. Ici, on est de retour dans une partie de la ville qui a en grande mesure été construite pour les expositions universelles de la deuxième moitié du 19e et du début du 20e siècle. Paris that was largely built for the World Fairs of the late 1800s, early 1900s. The World Fairs saw the construction of many extraordinary buildings and structures, like the luxurious Alexander III Bridge, the gigantic Grand Palais, or the Eiffel Tower, 300 meters high. And yet, to the public at the World Fair of 1900, the major attraction was a moving walkway, a banal moving walkway that had been set up in this part of the city. People went crazy over a moving walkway simply because in 1900, electricity was brand new to the public back then. It was really exciting to discover this invention that allowed them to move without providing any effort. It has this onion-shaped roof. It's unusual in Paris, but it's typical of Orthodox architecture. Et on retrouve la Tour Eiffel. Elle porte donc ce nom parce qu'elle a été construite par l'ingénieur Gustave Eiffel, mais il y avait eu 100 built by engineer Gustave Eiffel, but there had been 107 projects presented for the construction of a tower 300 meters high. a lot of competition. Gustave Eiffel won because he and his team had the best ideas. First, they chose to build with metal. This was wise. There were some architects that wanted to use stone for a tower 300 meters high. Those architects immediately lost the competition. The other brilliant idea was to take into account the pressure of the wind. If you're going to go that high, the wind is going to blow very strongly up there. It's stronger than on the ground level. It's important to remember this in the design to make sure it doesn't collapse. The curves of the sides of a tower were calculated mathematically to ensure maximum resistance to the pressure of the wind. These are the ideas that made Gustave Eiffel the clear winner of the competition.